G'day, Ben from Melbourne here. Today, of course, we're doing another interviewing the VC. Today, we've got a man on the quest for the perfect analog chain to achieve the ultimate lo-fi sound by listening to Guided by Voices. Indie rock drummer extraordinaire. Come out of the cupboard as a death metal fan halfway into his VC channel. And I gotta say, he's frankly the vinyl community's most flakiest member in terms of the lack of videos he makes.
100%.
It's Ian from, are you still broke with audiophile taste, or is it just Miller Bakery YouTube channel now?
No, Miller Baker. Miller Baker is like my email address, and so like just when I'm regularly using YouTube, it's under that. But then when I started the channel, I started a new, put a new name for the channel and stuff. So anyway, yeah, I mean the channel's still called Broke with Audiophile Taste.
Yeah.
It's been a bit since I made a video. I've thought that if I make another video, I would change the name of the channel.
Okay.
But for now, that's what it still is.
Is that
But hey, what's
because
up?
is that because you get trolled by like people who are into UHQR records and all of the
Yeah,
animal
it's
productions and things like that?
that was from the get-go. I was really leery about having the word audiophile associated with my name, because even though I give a shit about sound quality, I find the vast majority of anything associated with the word audiophile to just be completely annoying and wankery.
And
And
no one wants to have be described with the word file at the end of it either.
right, 100%. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I get ideas for videos every now and again. I've even made a few that I just never published because I didn't really think they were any good. Uh, I bet I'll make some videos again someday, but haven't for a
I
while.
like it. Just when you feel like you've got something you want to say, you put it
Yes.
out there. There's no agenda. I like it.
Oh.
All right. Well, this, if you haven't watched this before, of a member of the vinyl community come along and I grill them, interview them / quiz them on certain things. They get 6 questions, which they're allowed to do a little bit of homework on, which I think is only fair considering the questions. And then they get 6 where we see how they pivot, turn or squirm in there. It's 12 questions plus a bonus question. And I think that's about all we need to know. So you ready to get into it?
Let's do it, man.
All right. First question is, justify your YouTube vinyl community existence. Why should we watch your channel when you bother to make a video, that is, and show a record that supports this?
All right. Well, first thing is you probably shouldn't watch my channel. You should do something better with your life. But if you're gonna watch my channel, I don't know. What came to mind is I'm really into these days like European originals of non-European albums because they tend to be more affordable, but they're actually really awesome. So, like for example, I got my hands on a German original of Lust for Life, and U.S. originals are just like $100 these days. Like they're just
Yeah.
crazy expensive, and this was like 35
Wow.
dollars. So it's not always the case that they're so affordable, but that's just but like the last year or two, that's been a big focus of mine is getting European originals of records that are otherwise too expensive. And here's an example of that. So that's the kind of thing I like to talk about.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. You've gone down the Canadian path of, I don't know why you should watch my channel or you shouldn't watch my channel. So far, that's the Canadians' responses as well. But at least you were like, get outside and do something.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Minnesota. It's Canadian adjacent. So I suppose that's it. Mm-hmm.
All right. Good answer. Iggy Pop put you over the line. 1 point. And by the way, if you don't know, these points, it's like an English quiz show. It doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. But you can lord it over other people if you do well.
Cool, I will, yeah.
Okay, next question, number 2. Show a record that you know I like.
Hmm. Well, the only Australian stuff I have is.
I didn't have to be Australian, but that's fine.
Yes, it does. Don't give me that shit. I seem to remember you saying this was your favorite ACDC record. I may be wrong about that, but
No, by a long way, that is. Yeah,
yep.
that's my favorite one. Yeah, I think that one's the best.
So this is the U.S.
Excellent.
original.
Nice. Nice.
Mhm. Does
Speaking of,
does the Australian original have the same cover or no?
that's the only one which it is pretty much the same. Yeah. The rest of them have different covers. Like Highway to Hell is the same photo, but the backdrop's different.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think all the rest are completely different. Man, I got some flack when there was something about Hypnosis covers, and they did the Dirty Deeds cover for the international release, and the Australian ones like Bon Scott with the big arm and the tattoo on it.
I remember you showing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and when all of the proggy types really didn't like how much shit I put on the Hypnosis cover because I think it's terrible. Like it's just a heap of random people with the blacked out line over their eyes
Right.
and stuff. Yeah. Well, I do like that record, so a point to you there. 2 for
Oh yeah.
2, going swimmingly. Question 3. What is the best performance on a traditionally non-rock instrument in a rock song?
This was the hardest one for me. The obvious one is "It's a Long Way to the Top" if you want to rock and roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the obvious one. I don't have that record though. I don't have High Voltage.
That's actually, if you're Australian, that's off TNT.
Oh no shit. Also, there's that
Yeah.
too. There's different track listings.
Yeah, well, High Voltage, the international ones, is almost like a compilation of the first 2 records.
Damn. That's like old
Anyway,
school. Like that's how it worked with the Beatles and whatnot, right? So I didn't realize that
yeah,
like in
I think
the
a
early
similar thing.
right.
But like you were saying with Iggy Pop originals in the US, Australian originals of ACDC records, Bon Scott era, are just astronomical in price. It's crazy.
Do you have any? Well, like I mean, you showed that one. You showed what was it? TNT? No, the Dirty Deeds.
Yeah, and I got High Voltage, TNT, and I got Highway to Hell. But it seems that Power Age and Let There Be Rock are the hardest to find at a price I'm willing to pay. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah, but the first 2, High Voltage and TNT, I just lucked out when my uncle went CD in the 90s, and so I got all of his stuff.
Gotcha.
I'll
But
actually
anyway,
let you answer the question.
right. Yeah. So to answer the question, I think the best I can do is Grant Hart's the argument. He's there's like a lot of xylophones and a lot of interesting sort of percussion in the background on this. Not that interesting of an answer.
Good
I'm, I'm
record though.
I'm gonna request at least half a point because it's a good record.
That's a lot of people have got points they didn't deserve just because they've showed good records. That's a fair request, I think. Yeah, I love Grant Hart solo stuff. It's really good.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say Intolerance. I think that's the first one, and that like got me totally into his stuff. Excellent work. That's 3 for 3. First use of xylophone in this so far. Yeah, great record. All right, number 4. What is the worst record by your favorite band or solo artist, and you have it, and why do you have it?
Yeah, this is a hard one too, and I don't think I even picked one out.
Is that because you just have gold in your collection?
Kind of. I mean, to put it a different way, like I've really just kind of tried to pare down as much. I've really kind of sort of like slimmed down to the essentials in a way.
So you're not a completist of anyone.
Here's the closest I am. I'll grab this one here. This is Superchunk's first record. It's not a bad record by any means. It's got Slack Motherfucker on it. I basically never listen to this though. If I'm reaching for Superchunk, I'm reaching for something else.
Yeah.
But it is for completeness sake, really. So yeah.
I'd have to agree with you on that record. That would be the last one I'd reach for with Superchunk stuff. Like, yeah, and as you say, not terrible. Don't know if we can do half points here, but you did show a Superchunk record. As you can tell, it's really strict, the rules on this. So I'm going to give you a point. So that's 4 points for Superchunk. They come out here that was it last year, and I managed to miss them. God damn it! Anyway, but,
they played here not too long ago. Like I don't know that I necessarily want to see him without John Worster.
Yeah, that's true. Is he still playing with Bob Mould?
He is. They just played here the other day, and I missed that.
Yeah, I saw him with Bob Mould. It's probably nearly 10 years ago now, and that was great. But yeah, I've only seen Superchunk with him in the band too. So same thing. Sorry, people, this is all inside baseball drummer talk that you probably don't know what the hell we're talking about. But there's a whole internet out there. Look it up yourselves. Okay. Number 5. Tell a story of the most unusual or funny thing that has happened at a gig you have attended, or even one that you've played.
Yeah, I mean, nothing that a few things came to mind, and none of them are that dramatic. I guess what I'll mention is maybe you remember hearing about this. Would have been probably 1999. Sonic Youth got their gear stolen. And I saw the last show they played before they got their gear stolen.
Okay, that's cool.
This is at the Greek Theater in Berkeley in my San Francisco days, and it was this like indie rock wet dream of a show where it was headlined by Sonic Youth. There was also Slater Kinney, Guided by Voices, Superchunk, Rocket from the Crypt.
How did they stop Superchunk from playing like 3 hours?
Superchunk like opened it.
Sorry, Guided by Voices, not Superchunk.
Oh, Guided by Voices. Yeah. Yeah. Somehow that was definitely the shortest Guided by Voices show I ever saw.
Yeah. They played it the long sets. They had so many songs, I suppose. But yeah.
So it would have been. Let's see. It would have been the time of. Was that maybe the Thousand Leaves tour?
That sounds about right.
Here's 1,000 Leaves.
I know it was late 90s, early 2000s, something like that.
Yeah.
But they got a whole semi-trailer load of gear it was just driven off and stolen, wasn't it? It was like guitars, amplifiers.
Yep.
And then they couldn't perform lots of songs for years after that because a lot of those guitars were hot wired just for that song or this song sort of thing.
Yep. Super customized stuff. I think like years later they got it back. I feel like I read that.
I don't think they got everything back, but there were they did get a fair chunk of it back. And it was kind of cool. Like, this is why we like indie rock and punk rock people, because the community, a lot of times I heard stories of people would see these guitars trying to be sold at guitar shops or pawn shops, and they'd get in contact with Sonic Youth. So classic rock dudes wouldn't do that. I'm just gonna let that one amend. All right. Question number 6. That is like not funny or unusual, but it is cool to have seen them just before they kind of had to change their whole way of playing. So I like that answer, and as I don't have anyone to answer for, that's a point.
Oh yeah.
All right. Where did I say we're up to? Number 6. This question I like because as this goes on, it's going to get tougher and tougher for people. So be thankful you're fairly early on. Show your favorite music-related fruit or vegetable that's not a banana.
Hmm. I had a lot to choose from. I'm kind of surprised how often I saw fruit references pop up in my record collection. So out of many things to choose from, I went with
Deerhoofs,
Deerhoof's Apollo.
fantastic.
This is original pressing right here, cut by Don Grossinger. Look real close, you'll see his name. Um,
It looks real close.
this is freaking awesome. This like one of my favorite albums. The original pressing is
Yeah,
sounds unbelievable. So in your face. Um,
excellent.
Great shit.
Great. An apple, which wasn't a goddamn Beatles record. Well done.
Mm.
I think
I
people
thought
get
about reaching for a Peel Sessions record on a kind of the label for Peel Sessions records was Strange Fruit Records.
right. Yeah, yeah. Interesting. I like that better, to be honest, because it's on the cover. You know what it is straight away. That was good. And yeah, I haven't actually had anyone show a Beatles record so far. I think they know the vibe of my channel by now.
Mm.
Okay, now number 7. This is where we change direction, and these are the ones which you haven't had any time to prep for. But this is becoming a stock standard question, which I regret that I even have in there because I've been talking about this bastard more than I ever planned. It is apologize for liking Van Morrison or celebrate with me your dislike for Van Morrison.
um, well, I'm pretty Van Morrison agnostic. I think I don't know. I don't really have strong opinions about Van Morrison. I can't imagine like really loving Van Morrison. Um,
Either can I, actually.
Having said that, the first song I ever learned on guitar was Gloria.
That doesn't count because it's by them, and
Right,
they get the thumbs up.
right.
All that mystical bullshit afterwards is just terrible. And
I've hardly heard it, to be fair. I mean, like
yeah,
I've heard Moon, like the song Moon Dance,
mm,
which is fine. I don't hate it, but I don't. It doesn't do much for me either. Um, and I don't know. I'm completely incurious about Van Morrison and not interested.
that'll do because if you've waged the war against the huge tide of Van Morrison love, point.
Who are you getting all this Van Morrison love from?
It's surprising, like the people. There's some obvious ones, and then there's people who I'm like, yeah, you'll be the one who's on my side, and then they're like, nah, sorry, I got to admit. So yeah, no. I'm gonna have to start doing better vetting before I do these, so I can get a little bit more Van Morrison dislike coming through my channel.
Yeah,
Could say I'm on a one man vendetta against Van Morrison, but
it sounds that way.
anyway. You gotta have something to polarize people. All right, number 8. So obviously drummers are the most important member of any band, and singers, as we know, are a necessary evil. So my question is, who is the most punchable singer? It's quite apt after the Van Morrison one.
Boy, okay, who's the most punchable singer? Well, I mean, there's plenty of punchable singers in like bands that I don't like, that I don't have records of. Is the idea that like I find something from my collection and show a record from a band with a punchable
What,
singer? Or
whatever you like, you don't have to have it. If it's someone who really gets your goat and it's not your type of thing, go for that. If it's something like a band you love, but the singer like for me, the Australian band UMI, their first 3 records are fantastic, and their singer drives me insane. Like, he's the biggest wanker on stage. I went and saw them a few times back in the day, and he just ruined the show. And I gave him like a few chances because I thought maybe he's having an off night, but he's just a complete wanker. And then I saw him in another band, Support the Damned. Same thing. Like, just never seen a bloke look so much at his reflection in the what's it called? The clear perspex around Rat Scabies drums. He'd always be like looking back at himself. It was just like, and he does lots of these Jesus Christ poses, which I'm not a fan of either.
Yep, that's a deal breaker.
But I do love though. I can't not love those first 3 records. But I'm happy to stay at home and listen to them. Never want to see him live. So.
Well, here's what comes to mind when I reflect on this. One of my favorite drummers, and I'll get there with the singer part of this. One of my favorite drummers is Jack Irons. I think he is awesome. And I have hated just about every band he's been in. So like he was the original Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer. There's a punchable singer if there ever was one.
Yeah, definitely.
He was in Pearl Jam, another pretty goddamn punchable singer.
Yep.
But the way I got into him was the record that Neil Young did with Pearl Jam, Mirror Ball.
That's right.
And I just was blown away with his drumming. And that record came at a time for me. I had that record in my old collection, the one that I sold 10 years ago, or much longer, actually 20 years ago now. Fuck. And it's like a $200 record now. Like you can't get it. I'm waiting for the reissue. Hopefully one of these years I'll finally get to that one. But anyway, that came out in I think 95, and that was at this kind of crucial time of like I was just getting into punk rock. I was just starting to leave the metal behind, and just like the really powerful straight ahead drumming on that record, really kind of woke me up to like how powerful it can be to play in a straightforward way, and to not do a bunch of fancy bullshit. And so, are we still good on the connection here? You froze up.
No, we're all good.
Okay, good. So he was also in this band called 11.
I've heard them, but I've never actually heard their music.
The singer of that band is this guy, Alan Johannes, also quite punchable. So
what is Jack doing, man?
100%. His drumming on there's this 11 record called Funk, where like the songs are really good. His drumming is incredible. The vocals are just like a lot of yarling and I just hate the vocals. So so it's a bunch of different vocalists, but you connected the vocalist with the drummer thing in the premise of your question. So that's where my mind went with it. Is that Jack Irons is a great drummer who has just done nothing but play with punchable singers.
He's just bad at picking people to play with. Yeah.
Yep.
More bands should do what Pearl Jam did and find someone good to front them. Because of Mirrorball is just a really good 90s Neil Young record, and he had a pretty good resurgence in the 90s. I think there's a few good
100%.
Yeah. That's three singers, and like, especially Red Hot Chili.
3 points. 3 points, right?
Big points. No, well, you can only get 1 point. Just hold back a second. It's good to be eager, but you're not going to sway me. All right, you are on 8 for 8 though, so that's pretty good.
Nice.
All right, question 9. This I'll be interested in because if I know some of your battles. What's so great about vinyl anyway?
What's so great about vinyl anyway? Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned my battles. Like, one's kind of arc of my channel has been sort of like figuring out what it is that I like about records and what I like about their sound. And when I started with my channel, in my mind, like there's records that sound good and records that don't sound good. And like what's sort of like the bottleneck in sound, right? And in my mind, the bottleneck was the analog digital thing. Like once you get digital involved, that's where the sound dies.
Yep.
And I've come to like really evolve on that question, and I've come to now think of it that the compression really seems like the by far the most important factor
Mm.
in the biggest sort of bottleneck in sound. That's how you can take a good sounding recording and make it bad sounding, is by compressing the hell out of it.
Yep.
So I forget what your question was. What? What's the question?
What's so great about vinyl anyway?
What's so great about vinyl anyway? Yeah. So I don't know what comes to mind is I just go back to when I first got into records as a grown up. Um, you know, I'm just old enough to have experienced the original sort of pre
Mm.
CD vinyl area as a little kid.
Mm.
And then what's this thumbs up on my face? Uh,
So yeah, I didn't want to interrupt your flow. I saw that. I don't know what happened then.
um, and then switched to CDs, heard nothing
Mm.
but CDs until the mid 90s, and then started exploring records again as an adult, as like a 19, 20-year old. And I just remember like dropping the needle on some of these like Neil Young records and Black Sabbath records, and these records that I already loved but thought of as being shitty sounding records,
Yeah.
and then hearing them in their original form and being like, what the fuck? Like I've
Mm.
just what a ripoff. I feel like like something had been like stolen from me in a way.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
like there's this experience that I've been missing out on. And so for me, the best of vinyl is when you have those experiences of
Mm.
just like of it just that kind of magical sound. And they're not all like that. There's plenty of
No.
crappy sounding records there's, that I even have in my collection. Like it's as much as I talk about that, it's not the end of the world either. Like
Yeah.
but at their best, great sounding records are just like wonderful for the soul because of how just sort of magical they sound. I know that sounds really kind of hoity-toity and pretentious, I guess, but that's what it does for me.
It's all right. You can be a bit new age if you want. That's cool.
Here's the thing. I've yet to be tested, but there's people in my family that I've learned are on the autism spectrum, and I
Yeah.
probably am too. And guess what? Every single one of us motherfuckers in the VC probably are,
Uh,
because normal people don't have walls full of records all over their house.
yeah. And
um, and part of so I may or may not be on the spectrum. I don't know, but I've got a lot of traits that are associated with that, and one
mm.
of them is this kind of like sensory sensitivity thing.
Mm.
Maybe
Mm.
you're familiar with that. There's probably a name for that. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like like I hate the feel of like I've grown my hair long several times and I've always cut it because I just can't stand how my hair feels on my face. And there's all kinds of like sensory sensitivities that I have,
It'd be
and I think
nice to
that's
have the choice, man.
what's that.
It'd be nice to have the choice. This is
um,
how it's staying for until I kick the bucket.
but anyway, the reason I bring this up is because I think that's part of this whole like audio thing with me
Mm. Mm.
of like
Mm.
it's gotta sound just right, and when it does
Yeah.
sound just right, it's this magical experience for me, and when it
Yeah.
doesn't, it's really it's almost upsetting because I feel like I'm being robbed of this
Yeah.
experience that I want to have.
Yeah.
Um, so
That's
rec-
that's a fair answer, and I I kind of like know what you mean, but I'm also I think I sort of sometimes notice it after the fact, if that makes sense, because if I'm really engaged with something and I don't think about sound,
yeah,
more afterwards I was like, wow, that's because that sounded so good, and better than I've ever heard it, sort of thing, and it's yeah, it's that physical thing where it just grabs me first, and I'm drawn into it. Whereas, yeah, like a shitty pressing or something flat might be like having my favorite music on it, but it doesn't hold my attention to it, you know. And it's not like a like super audiophile thing. It's just as good as that record can sound, whether it was recorded on a 4-track, you know, or whatever. It's how it's been pressed, and as you say, how much compression's on it. And I
100%.
just cool.
And
Well,
like one more thing to that point, like
yeah,
about, you know, when I had those early experiences at 19 or 20 with like hearing these older records, hearing like
mm,
original pressings for the first time and realizing that what I thought were bad sounding records were actually good sounding records, that was on a
mm,
complete piece of shit
yeah,
entry level record player.
yeah,
Like, you know, you don't necessarily have to have this super obnoxious system that
mm,
costs as much as a house to experience this stuff. You could totally entry level stuff. A good sounding record, you're also
yeah,
going to experience, because it's about compression. Probably, you'll also
mm,
experience that, you know, even on lousy equipment.
yeah. And I think because that was the industry standard, was it was a whole analog process, whether it was how it was recorded and pressed, right through to the gear that people listen to back at home. Like, you know, yeah, there's probably more. I always look at the real expensive ones. It must be more like a forensic scientific listen because, you know, I like good sounding stuff, but when it's detail over, because to me playing, you know, it's like being in a band. It's the overall sound, like of what makes a song and a band sound good. It's not like, oh man, that kick drum sounds amazing. Anyway, I could talk about that with you all day, but you're getting a point. Great answer. Okay, now we've touched on your love of the death metal already.
Hmm.
You can do this however you like, but give it, then you may scare your family depending on how close they are right now. Do your best death metal Cookie Monster growl.
Okay. Let me think of like a song to sing, if you will.
Gonna sing a whole song. Awesome.
Well, like so the thing that they do is they cup the microphone, you
Mm,
know, and it's actually really quiet.
mm.
The sounds that they make, that's how they're able to like play whole shows and stuff like that. And so like I don't really do this. I'm not a death metal singer. But
I know
like
that's what's fun about this.
when I was in high school, I would definitely try.
Yeah,
And so I haven't tried to do this in probably 30 years or something like that. So what the hell? Might as well do this for the whole world, right? So
no
all right.
watching.
So so this is a Cannibal Corpse song that I there you go.
Excellent, excellent work. That actually, I did never thought I would have to like with that kind, because I didn't know that about that singing, that it's quiet. I didn't never thought I'd have to like lean in a bit to
Hmm.
listen. I never knew that. That's interesting in itself. 1 point, perfect score of 10 out of 10 so far.
Oh.
That was good. All right, number 11. Name 3 Australian bands that aren't Men at Work in Excess or ACDC.
Weren't Men Without Hats? Were they Australian? Um,
That was that was the safety dance. I remember that one.
yeah, they weren't they
But that
Australian?
was, no,
Okay.
look, I think were they? No, if I say I'm gonna get it completely wrong. I want to say Canadian, but I don't know if I'm right.
Hmm. Okay, well, I still remember The Victims. That's one that one of your early videos. I
Mm,
just remember watching and you talking about The Victims, and I thought that sounds like my kind of thing. I'd be
mm-hmm.
really interested in checking them out, and I still haven't checked them out. So
One of the
there's
early punk bands from Perth, and Dave Faulkner was the singer of the Victims, who went on to be the lead singer and main guy in Hoodoo Gurus.
okay.
Um, and James Baker was the drummer who played in Scientist, Be Suburban, Dubrovnik's, like And the first version of Hoodoo Gurus, actually.
So fairly incestuous scene in
Mm,
Australian punk rock, sounds like.
that's a good
Um,
call. One.
okay, so well, stick with Perth then, Tame Impala.
Nice. They're a good band. I like them. If you like
Yeah,
that pop psych stuff, I like it.
I had one of their. I had like an MP3 of like in that time between my old record collection and my new record collection when I was still trying to figure out how do I want to collect music. I bought a download of one of their albums. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was
I
like
so,
there's
I
like a
so
mansion
wish.
in the background and there was like gates or something.
Yeah, I think that's the second one. I can't think what it's called off the top of my head. I was
That
just
sounds right.
hoping after a like conversation about what's so great about vinyl. Anyway, you just had just stopped it. Yeah, I have an MP3 of that.
Okay, so what did I say so far? I had the Victims,
Tame
Tame
Impala.
Impala. Uh, I mean the Go Betweens.
Ah, yes.
Probably everyone
So,
says that though.
well, I don't know. Nobody's had that question yet, but I'm going to use it from now
Hmm.
on because I like that. That was three good bands. I like it. And your homework is to listen to the Victims. Television Addict was their single. Good stuff.
Okay, I'll check that out.
All right, we're up to the last question, number 12 of the regular questions. And
There's gonna be irregular questions after this, or what?
there's a bonus question, as always.
Okay.
Um, and the more I like this, there, in some way, this is a psychological thing about me because I think after the most punchable singer and this question, I think everything's about Van Morrison for me, unfortunately.
What did he do to you?
Because this question is, what band artist do you love to hate?
So that comes from just thinking about Van Morrison. Okay.
It's like
Um,
I probably wouldn't know what to do if he wasn't around.
there are definitely bands that I love to hate, and I gotta think about that though. That would have been a better one to prepare for.
Telling the host off.
There's there's definitely stuff that comes on where I'm just like, I fucking hate that guy. Uh,
That's what we want.
I'm kind of drawn. I mean, there's obvious ones like I already mentioned the Red Hot Chili Peppers. There's obvious stuff like that. I'm trying to think of something that's like less obvious.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind. But my perfect score is at stake here. um, well, I guess to get to the Australian, so there's all right. So for a while, I would like get records for my kids,
Mm-hmm.
um, and um, and like they just wanted like pop music, so Taylor Swift and stuff like that, and um, and then like my actually this kind of came from my dad when they would like when my parents would babysit my kids, and like my dad would just like like play whatever pop music was current at the time, and and one of them just got into Sia, and so I got him that Sia record. What's it? It's sitting right here. It's here. I'll get it. This fucking thing. And I hate this so fucking much. Like 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 Taylor Swift like is like I don't really like it, but I can hear it. I don't hate it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd put this on, and I would just get angry. Like it just like yeah, like I really, really, really hate that. Um,
I think you're tapping into my Van Morrison feelings with that.
But otherwise, like just in a more general sense, happy music makes me really fucking pissed. Like, what is wrong with you? You're singing like about how happy you are and how good.
That just, yeah, I love that answer actually.
You got to be really fucking demented to make like super happy music.
Yes, that's a definite point. I love it. There's great sways of that shit. All right, we're up to the last question, which is the bonus question. What is the capital city of the Northern Territory?
Oh fuck!
We
No
love that
idea.
Australian
I mean, I thought you were
geography.
going to ask the capital of Australia, which I bet, 8 out of 10 Americans don't know.
What? Wait, you can show how smart you are right now if you like.
Canberra.
Interesting pronunciation, but yes,
I
that's
don't know
right.
how you people say
Canberra, just Canberra.
it. um, but yeah, no clue about provincial capitals or state capitals. You call them states or provinces? States, right?
Well,
Or
there's
cantons.
states, but there's two territories in that. There's this one, Northern Territory, and the Australian Capital Territory, which surprisingly Canberra is the capital of. It's a very small territory.
Mm.
So, have you ever heard of Cyclone Tracy?
I feel like I've heard of Cyclone Tracy, but
It's a clue.
maybe I've heard you say Cyclone Tracy. I don't know.
I don't bring up cyclones much, I don't think.
Huh.
All right, your time is up. You've destroyed your perfect score. It's
Wait, so
Darwin.
Cyclone Tracy was an actual cyclone? That's not
Yeah,
like a band?
no, Cyclone Tracy is what devastated Darwin in, I think, 1973 or early 70s.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know anything about
yeah,
that.
Darwin, right up the top of Australia in Northern Territory. It's really close. Like it has like it's really cool because it's really close to kind of like because we're really close to Asia. So there's a as well as like a Aboriginal culture. There's also sort of seeping in of Asian culture in there as well. It's yeah, cool place. It's very different to a lot of other places in Australia. It's got a cool laid back feel about it. It's always humid. That's the one
Tropical, I'm
downside.
guessing.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think he had a very respectable score of 12 out of 13. That's something to hang your hat on. And did really well. So we're at the 40-minute mark, so we'll call that. So I'll
Hmm.
leave Ian's details below so you can sub him and wait with bated breath for
Stay
his next
tuned.
video.
Yep.
So I'm sure he's cooking on something right now. But
Tune
yeah,
into my
thanks.
channel and just wait for the next video. It's coming. I
Mm,
promise.
yeah, hit that notify button. All right, mate. Thanks for being involved in that. Appreciate it. And for everybody else, we'll see you in the next one.